So if America's a Christian country and now, okay, hemispheric defense, Monroe Doctrine, we can steal, we can kill as long as it benefits us. How do those two things coexist? How can you want to prioritize Christianity, but also steal and kill and kidnap as long as it benefits us?
Well, I mean, look, I think that when it comes to the affairs of states, and it's true that Catholics are very against this way of thinking, I don't think they're correct about this. I think they're wrong about this, because I think that when it comes to governments, it is a different set of rules. And here's the difference. There is no overriding force in the world. So if you break international law, who do you go and tell? Like, there's no one that can enforce international law. There's no independent body. It's not like in a country where if I kill you or steal your shit, you go and call the cops. Your family.
Okay, now usually I would call this sophistry, right? And it is sophistry. It's a fake argument. But I truly believe that he believes what he's saying. Nick Fuentes is making the argument that in many of these societies, right, that cannot apply force. So, for instance, if you do something that is wrong, like raping someone, killing someone, any kind of violent act that is in violation of what we'd call Catholic standards or just basic standards are right and wrong, because the governmental system can't effectively implement punishment, it's okay now. That's effectively what he's saying. So, right and wrong is not based on whether or not it's inherently right or wrong based on his analysis, right? It's based on whether you can enforce the law. So he's effectively saying that it's a right when it comes to governments and in state affairs, right? It's okay to do these things because there are some governments that can't effectively apply the law. So it's all right to invade that. It's a right to invade because we can, right? Not basing whether something is right or wrong on whether it's inherently right or wrong, but whether or not you can effectively apply punishment. That is the mentality of a rapist. And granted, he's saying that, look, it's different. Granted, you could say he's being disingenuous, but I actually think he believes this because I've heard him make his arguments. And this is a disturbing thing about people like that in their mindset, because he is a Catholic. Like, he truly believes that he is someone that supports this faith, right? And I don't even care what most Catholics think about that. I think the fundamental ideology is what overrides what the collective thinks, right? And I'm pretty sure that in Catholicism, I'm not an expert in Catholicism, there are certain principles that you don't apply. Obviously, raping, killing, stealing goes without say, right? The only way you can justify that kind of stuff, well, you can if you're logical, if you have any above moron intellect, right? You can't. But what you will do if you have moral turpitude, right, is you'll say it's okay because, the country can't enforce these laws. And this is the argument these characters tend to go with. There are times when people make this argument, and I feel as if they're being disingenuous. For whatever reason, because I've listened to many of the debates that Nick Fuentes has done, he's openly said he doesn't care about it, right or wrong, and this kind of stuff. Like, deep down, I think he has this mentality where conquering is acceptable. He's willing to do horrible things in order to get what he wants. And because I understand his worldview, and it's been something that he hasn't denied, at least in past interviews. I've heard him say many things like this in debates. He is someone that thinks the ends justify the means. It's perfectly acceptable for him to do something like that, for governments to behave the way they do. Because here's the thing, right and wrong based off of like a Christian Catholic worldview or like what I'd call an axiomatic principle, natural law worldview, doesn't change based on whether or not it's a government, right? Like, governments don't exist. They're just fictitious ideas. Ultimately, you have people, individuals. If you as a person wants to drop a bomb on someone, right, and you're part of a government, if you as a person wants to go and rape someone in another country, wants to invade their land and do horrible things, right, and you're part of an entity, right, that is government, it doesn't magically become okay to do that. What he's saying is, well, when it comes to states, when it comes to governments, it's okay to do that because they can't apply force. That is literally the most retarded thing you could say. But that being said, I want to make it very clear. This is the thing where I find tricky, because I know that Nick Fuentes is not a retarded person. Therefore, logic would dictate that, naturally, well, perhaps he's being disingenuous, but I also know that he is, I believe he's not a disingenuous person, right? I just think that in his mindset, it's okay to behave like that. So he's not being dishonest. He's just someone that ultimately doesn't believe in good and bad as to how it's classically defined, right? Or when it comes to conduct. He's just someone that has a worldview where he can do anything and justify it because he thinks it's good. And the more you listen to this guy, the more you realize, that's who he is. He believes that he's doing the work of God, but he's doing it in a very immoral way.
Calls the cops, they throw you in jail. And so what that means is that every state is responsible for their own security. And when it comes to large, complex societies, security is very expansive. Like, let's say, for example, that we get into a war with China and they don't trade with us anymore. Well, they make all our pharmaceuticals. So what happens now? We have no medicine, can't make medicine. That's a big problem. So, like, if we can't have medicine, we're not safe. If this country has a problem with us, we don't have medicine.
I love that. You see, this is the argument of the majoritarians, right? This is the argument of the utilitarians. It's this idea that because, well, I feel like I'm not safe, right? Because there's this appeal to what might happen to me. This is the justification that Donald Trump had for potentially invading Greenland. Well, it's national security. Look, in the event, I mean, China wants Greenland. I don't believe there's any plausible evidence to suggest that. You can make the argument, though, because China has actually been showing interest in having these dealings with Greenland in terms of doing some kind of construction or mining work or whatever it might be there, and doing some kind of loan. Well, you know, that could lead to a situation where Greenland may owe China money and China may need to go there in order to claim resources and so forth. And because somewhere down the line, it may become an issue where China is gaining claim to Greenland, right? It's somehow because Greenland government has defaulted on its loans and so forth. And this is all an appeal to what may happen in the future. Now that's a security issue, right? Anytime you make an argument based off of what might happen in the future and you call that a threat, that's not a threat. That's not in the classical sense. That's like a mind virus trick these tyrannical douchebags use in order to influence people. It's basically fear dressed up as reason and logic, right? It's this appeal to potentiality. That's not a threat. A direct threat would be, and these are the only threats that actually have validity within a natural law workspace, right? So this is the idea of, like, if China actually made the claim, right, like direct threat would be, we are going to take over your country or else. We're going to get it one way or the other, like Donald Trump did, right? That's a direct threat. Not you fearing for what might happen. Hey, look, I might not have enough resources in the future, so that's a threat to me. If you continue just living your way, right, and just through the natural forces of reality, I may not have enough power in order to govern my country, right? I consider that a threat. I could easily make the argument that unless, of course, I'm able to rape lots of people down the line, right, I'm not going to be happy and I'm not going to feel powerful, and that may lead to my suicide. Therefore, it's justified in me in raping them. Okay? This is the kind of mind virus that people seem to accept. It's not an argument. The latter is not some kind of direct threat. And this is the justification these momos use. And the thing is, deep down, they know it's not an actual legitimate argument, at least within the workspace of what we would call natural law, international law, right? This idea of basic ethics. It doesn't matter how people try to apply this in some kind of international level. International law doesn't exist. The same law that governs humanity governs the international world. These are the universal standards of right and wrong. You don't get to invade a country just because you want shit. Yeah, calling yourself a government, calling it a war doesn't make it justified. Acts of violence that are committed in war are no different to acts of violence that are committed in the home. Just calling it something else doesn't change that. When people play these games, this is what you want to have a look out for. If you're someone that is not educated in the language of these tyrannical douchebags, you will fall victim to their words, to their gameplay. But I don't. I've heard this many enough times to realize exactly the arguments they're making. But that being said, I still do believe that Nick Fuentes, whereas he understands the land space, he is not ignorant to what he's saying. He just truly doesn't care and believes that it's justified.
Point being is we have to secure supply chains, raw materials, resources, territory. We have to think about, what are the other guys going to do? It's sort of like a prisoner's dilemma. So I think that a lot more is justified with that way of thinking.
Yeah, and that is called survival. That's the mentality of everyone for themselves. It's like, well, unless I kill this person, he might kill me. Yeah, look, I kind of need to rape this person because unless I do, we're not going to have any offspring and the world is going to be invaded by the commies or something like that. So look, I got to do it. You see, I honestly, with all the humility that I can muster, I would be an amazing conqueror, an amazing like Machiavellian dictator, because my creative ability to justify anything if I wanted to, because I'm so fucking creative, right? Is such I could justify anything with that kind of thinking. It really, you just need to be imaginative. You can make any argument you want to, right? Now, granted, you have to be a bullshit artist and you have to speak in a way where you try to convince people that you actually believe what you're saying. Problem is, I wouldn't. I don't. I think that stuff is horseshit, so I don't think I'd be very effective at it. But in terms of making these arguments, it's so easy. They're just imaginative arguments that appeal to potentialities. And you can see fear everywhere. Like you could see a military commando behind every blade of grass. Like if you have that mindset, right? It's like, well, we have to kill all the the black people because they pop caps in your asses. They might do that. Statistically, the evidence shows that they might do that. Oh, we have to forcibly inject people with this poison because they transmit viruses and so forth. It's such a beautiful way of looking at the world if you were a Machiavellian dictator and you have no sound understanding of moral principles to live your life like that. It's so easy, and it's why the most effective Machiavellian leaders, right? So I'm talking about most effective bad people, right? Just don't get me twisted here. I'm saying that if you are going to be an evil person, that's how you do it. You can't do that shit, though, if you're someone that is a stickler for actually respecting natural rights of people. Because you just can't do that stuff. All you can be accused of, right, is just being selfish and greedy because you're not. This is what I've noticed a lot of MAGA people use to try to justify their violence. Well, you just let that shit happen. Like one of my friends made the point right a while ago that it was right for the United States to invade Greenland, or to, even if they haven't done so yet, right? Because the Denmark government, they let all of the Syrians get raped or something like that, or some group of people. Like the idea of inaction justifying violence. It's like, well, it's like when you rape someone, you say, hey, it was all right to rape them because these people, they didn't protest about Palestine when Palestine was being invaded by Israel. It's because everyone is complicit when you look at things from that frame, that mind frame, right? It's kind of like you just have to look at something someone hasn't done in order to prevent an evil. And the thing is, because evil is ubiquitous, you're always complicit. Despite the power of the sun, it's always night in half of the planet. Even if you're Superman, you can't prevent every horrible wrongdoing. So regardless of who you are, even if you were God in this universe, right, there is still some wrongdoing. So it's like, oh, it's all right to rape God because God, let me get hurt. And this is another sophist argument people that really don't have the philosophical literacy or are disingenuous, right, in order to understand the arguments they're making. And then there are people that just they have both of those qualities where they understand the arguments and they're honest, but they just don't care. This is the mentality of Thanos. I think that Thanos was my favorite villain because, granted, he was probably the most evil character. He had integrity to at least acknowledge what he was doing and just didn't care. And Nick Fuentes is that character. He's probably, and he has that kind of riz. This is one of the reasons why he's so influential. He does have integrity in terms of, when I say moral soundness, right, integrity, I'm not talking about being a good person. I'm just talking about honesty. I guess that would be the better word to use. Like, he's just more honest about everything that he believes, but he has no moral integrity.
And you could take it a step further and say the Venezuelan regime is a criminal regime. This is a regime that runs on kidnapping, the drug trade.
Can you say the same about America?
Exactly. This is what I like about Sneeko. He's so freaking wired onto this thing. It's just such an easy argument to make. Well, it's all right for me to rape this country because look at the bad things they've done.
No, I don't think the two are comparable.
What makes Venezuelan more criminal than...
They're much more corrupt. Much more.
The United States government isn't corrupt?
They are corrupt, but Venezuela is more corrupt.
How so?
Because that country doesn't even make anything. They sell a little bit of oil, and then almost everybody in the government is in on actual kidnapping. And you could talk to anybody from Venezuela, even in like this city, in Miami, and they will tell you, oh yeah,
You could make the same argument about the United States government if they're complicit indirectly by supporting the theft of people's resources or their their money through taxation, right, which is being used in order to instigate violence on countries abroad. It's so easy to make arguments like that. Now, granted, look, that you could say that there is corruption that's happening perhaps on a lower level. It's more in your face in Venezuela. The United States government, I would make definitively as an argument, is by far the most corrupt entity in the world right now in terms of its violations of human rights. In terms of, and when I'm talking about violation, I'm talking about going to war and dropping bombs on people, right? And then using this argument, well, they're not good countries anyway. Look at all the horrible things they do and so forth. It doesn't take away from the fact that you're still violating their rights. You're still acting like a warmongering piece of shit. And this is the thing that this is why I find listening to people like Nick Fuentes so interesting. Like, granted, he's making all these horrible arguments, however, within his subjective Machiavellian mindset, I believe, and perhaps you think I'm a little naive for this, but believe me, I am not new to Nick Fuentes. Most people have adopted Nick Fuentes' train for just recently. I know what this guy is about. And has a lot of riz, has very intelligent, but I truly believe he believes what he's advocating for, like wholeheartedly. And one of the reasons I do is because he says stuff that he knows definitively is going to get like horrible reaction from people, right? Like supporting these horrible leaders like in history, and just owns it. Like he doesn't care. So he is base in that he's sticking to his principles on what he believes, right? Like yours truly. He just has this warped mindset where he justifies it. He is like Thanos. Thanos is not a fictitious character. I mean, he is, but the mindset of Thanos is a real thing. That's why I think the Avengers movies, the most recent one with Thanos, was so compelling, because the justifications that Thanos had for, getting rid of half of the planet, that really is the mindset of these tyrants. They do think like Nick Fuentes, and they believe that they are good. And that's what makes them so compelling. It's harder to be an effective bad person when you truly believe you're a bad person and you have this sense of remorse. I always find it funny when I watch cartoons, right? And like they make villains to say they're bad. It's like, I love being an evil villain, and I want to take over the world because I'm bad. It's like it's so clear that these villains know they're bad. Bad people typically don't call themselves bad people throughout history. They believe that they are good people. They just have a different outlook. They have the outlook of Nick Fuentes. And this is why I find this so entertaining and so real, because Nick Fuentes is a real villain, right? It's kind of like this mindset of like, I know I'm a good person. I'm willing to do wrong things because I have this great vision at hand. And Donald Trump is in that same league. But I'm sure he, unlike Nick Fuentes, he probably has a hard time sleeping at night. Or maybe it doesn't because of his narcissistic, I am God personality.
Brother got kidnapped 3 times. We had to pay a ransom. That doesn't really happen in America.
Kidnapping versus, Epstein, blackmail, there's both criminal, there's both corruption.
Yeah, but again, it comes down to third world level corruption where...
So petty crime versus grand crime.
Yeah.
You see, that is what I'm talking about. The honesty right there. It's like, yeah, but in America, in Venezuela, they do, petty crime. And we do grand scale crime here in the United States, right? Like, we take it to, like, next level shit. We have governments that we delegate all that violence and horrible shit to our government. So it's not the same thing, It's just not. It's not. I like that. I like that from the perspective of honesty. Obviously, it's deplorable and it's disgusting. Don't get this twisted, ladies and gents. There is a part of me that is being objective about this and is trying to see the funny in this, all right? However, I do find that stuff so amusing when someone can just own their moral turpitude, as opposed... It pisses me off, though, when I know that people are just being dishonest, and I get that impression. I don't get that impression when I listen to Nick Fuentes. He pretty much reinforces every belief that I have as to why what he's doing is just disgusting. But I enjoy listening to him because he's charismatic and he's honest about it.
Basically. Yeah, because, you could talk about a lot of the things that happen in America. You could say that's greasing palms. You could say it's untoward, or maybe it looks improper. In Venezuela, you get kidnapped by gangsters that the government allows to operate, and you got to pay them to, let you go.
What do you mean allows to operate? Like, this is the argument. It's like, just because I don't spend my resources and my time in trying to stamp out a problem, right, I'm allowing them to operate. That's such a horrible argument, and I notice a lot of people make these arguments. It's like, you can only focus on so many things. There are an infinite amount of horrible crimes going on around the world. And I'm not supporting these governments, but let's say, look, let's focus on actual real crimes, right? Like the big stuff, like not invading and dropping bombs in countries, right? No, because we're not focusing on preventing people from being kidnapped because we don't have the resources to do that, somehow that's going to be used as a justification for how we're bad people. That's not a classical moral argument, man. I mean, you can say that someone's not doing enough, but you only make yourself a hypocrite when you make arguments like that. I really despise when people make those kind of arguments. I always try to avoid, like, just the other day, I had this girl, right, at work. She was accusing me of doing something that herself was complicit in doing, right? It was just something like using AI, right? I didn't see it as a big deal. It's like, I think I was using Grok at the time, and I thought, oh, maybe she has an issue with Elon Musk, right? It's like, yeah, I don't really like everything Elon Musk does either, But I realized later on, it's like she was making the argument, no, I think I just don't support AI. I think it's wrong, it's horrible. And I'm like, she was obviously someone that doesn't use it directly, right? But I was trying to make the point to her that it's embedded within the apps that you're using now, like within Instagram, TikTok, which I know she does use. You're making use of these apps, and effectively, you're doing the same thing. Whereas I might be using one program to access some AI technology, right, in order to summarize something, which is what I was doing. She's using this same stuff in order to like gain access to social media and to send messages, right, when she's using AI suggestions and so forth. It's effectively the same thing now. And she was making this argument, well, it's all right, so that it was wrong for me to do it, right, but you're complicit in doing it as well. It's like, it's such a horrible argument. And I was explaining to her that whereas I don't support that using it is wrong, using AI is wrong, I don't have a problem with it. I'm pro-technology, right? In your own worldview, it's completely ridiculous because you're complicit in doing that exact same thing. And I'm like, so many of these arguments have that kind of logic wired into it. It's like, what you're doing is wrong, but you're doing exactly the same thing. It's like you're just letting these citizens to be kidnapped. Well, the United States is just letting its citizens to freaking die in starvation. Think about all the millions of billions of dollars you could be using towards getting rid of people on the streets. Instead, you're investing trillions of dollars in warfare right now, right? You're a greater demonstration of what you're saying is wrong. And this is the insanity. This is the logical insanity of people. Like I would love to have a debate with Nick Fuentes because one, I believe that it would be really amicable, right? And I don't think I would get angry because he'd be so honest about it, even if he wanted to be disrespectful to me. Whereas I get angry at people when I feel as if they're being dishonest in a conversation. I don't get that. It's just more conducive to a good conversation where you can at least be honest about how you feel about things, and you can allow the chips to fall where they will. And at least that's one thing I have for Nick Fuentes. He is honest about it, but it's just so obvious to see the contradictions within his argumentation and just how infantile they truly are, at least from a wisdomatic standpoint. They're brilliant arguments if you have a Machiavellian worldview, but once again, I don't subscribe to that worldview.
Kidnap the president. So we're doing
yeah, because he runs this criminal
so you're fighting
enterprise.
crime with crime.
Well, I mean, strictly speaking, you could call it an extradition. And say we charged him we're not kidnapping and saying, hey, pay to let him go because we're gangsters. We're kidnapping him really for the sake of
that's what I'm saying. We also admitted that it was like the kidnapping, the whole indictment was bullshit. Like the cocaine and machine guns, that was just written so that we could justify the regime change.
Yeah, that being said, I mean, it is technically true. Like their government is involved in the cocaine trade. It is a criminal enterprise. I don't think that we should go and arrest.
The United States is the biggest criminal enterprise, clearly.
Every government that is corrupt, we do have to arrest every government on earth.
But you're just letting that happen, aren't you? Therefore, isn't it justified in another government invading your president because they're just letting all of this horrible stuff happen?
But for people to say, "Oh, you're stealing their shit." First of all, I would say we have a right to.
Of course, because we're rapists. We have a right to take all your shit and do whatever we want to it because we're the bigger power. This is the imperialist mentality of someone like Nick Fuentes. And this is the thing that I find so fascinating about listening to someone like that, right? Now, granted, when he says he has a right to, he's not speaking from this perspective of natural rights, intrinsic value, this attitude of, look, it's intrinsically right to have certain rights, right? Like it's my right not to be aggressed upon, right? It's because it's inherently just a wrong thing to do, to steal, to hit someone. You have to move into this worldview where you say rights are about, well, it's acceptable because it's acceptable to do something. You have a right to do something. For instance, you have a right to not have something stolen from you only if you can defend yourself from having that thing stolen from you. And this is the kind of imperialist mindset. Whereas, it's right for us to steal it because they can't defend themselves, and they've let other things happen in the past, so that's acceptable. It's this. You just warp everything around, and you kind of like have this disingenuous worldview, which is objectively disingenuous. However, within the corrupted worldview that someone like, once again, Nick Fuentes has, it's not disingenuous because within that worldview, anything goes. It truly comes down to that. Because you can subjectively make an argument to justify anything and everything. And if you have not realized that within this worldview, then you are not paying attention, or you just don't. You literally don't have the mental power to actually realize what he's saying. Because he is saying that his caveat would be that, look, it's the right thing to do though, because it's going to lead to the best outcome, which is an unknowable.
But if you wanted to go further, I would say they're fucking criminals anyway. They're fucking gangsters. Fuck them. And
once again, yep, it was all right for me to rape that person. This is probably what Donald Trump would say if he finally came out about the Epstein files. Yeah, it was all right for me to rape those kids, right? Because they're fucking criminal hoes anyway. I mean, who the hell takes money to come on an island on some strange they don't even know? It's like they were criminal. They were hoes. Like, I bet they probably raped other people in past lives. This is what I would imagine. I'm not saying they've said this, but this is the kind of argument that someone like this would make over and over again. It's like, you do something that's wrong. Yeah, but look, you probably did that shit anyway, and I bet you did do that. You did some other stuff. It's like, hey, man, you just stole something from me. Yeah, but like, I bet you stole something from someone before, didn't you? No, not that I know. Yeah, well, I bet you play people do this shit to me. Yeah, well, you sing other people's songs, don't you? You've stolen their music, and you tell jokes that are not yours. Like, you see, you stole shit from them, so it's all right for me to steal from you. But that's not the same thing. I didn't take it. That's not. They don't own that shit. That's like not their physical property. That's information. No, it's the same thing. This is the kind of shit people do that drives me insane, and that's. I guess you just have to discern whether they actually believe what they are saying, so they're delusional, whether they are trying to be disingenuous, too, or whether they just don't care, and in their worldview, it's acceptable to think like that because they are moral relativists. Like, they truly don't think that there is objective truth. This is why anytime someone begins by saying they don't believe in morality or anything like that, this is the kind of stuff Andrew Tate says. It's kind of like, even though he claims to be of Islam, right? Like, the thing about Islamic people, I'm not saying that they have the right attitude, but they do have more of a deontological perspective towards things. It's kind of like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. It's no kind of like, it's not as up in the arms airy-fairy that you find most politicians and atheists advocating for. At least I find, right? Whereas he's someone that I heard saying many times, like, everything's just opinion, it's all subjective, so it doesn't really matter. When you advocate for that kind of worldview, you can justify everything, and you're just going to come across as just extremely deceptive. The distinction, though, is whereas I would say that Nick Fuentes actually does believe what he's saying, I don't think Andrew Tate does. I think Andrew Tate is so incredibly intelligent that he knows he's being a manipulating piece of shit. He's being dishonest, and yes, he's charismatic and a lot of fun to watch, but he is objectively being a dishonest person and is also advocating for immoral things. With a lot of this stuff. Like, I know he has the same mindset as Nick Fuentes. Yeah, just invade it, take your shit, might as right, that kind of mentality. But he's someone that has this populist attitude, right? It's like, I want to support Trump, this is what I think, right? Because, I want to side with him, he's the big gun, he's the powerful dude, thinks like I do. Obviously, I might get some good shit from it. There is nothing base about that worldview.
It's left-wing pieces of shit.
It's a Christian country.
It's a socialist country.
Which comes first?
For that regime, socialism.
And what about in America?
America's a socialist country. I mean, yes, America's predominantly, I'd say, a Christian country, but it has capitalists, it has socialists. I'd say most people are predominantly socialists in just differing degrees.
Well, America has a liberal regime. Theirs is socialist, ours is liberal. But, I mean, you could say the people are Catholic in Venezuela, but the regime is socialist. It's not like they have a theocracy. It's not like they have a religious state. They
Potato, bro. I'm not.
have a socialist government run by criminals. So I say fuck them. I mean,
they're socialists, but he did ban porn. Didn't he ban gay marriage as well? He banned usury.
But who cares? I mean,
economically, you're saying that it's like not Christian because it's socialist, but value-wise, he was far more Christian than Trump.
But it's run by thieves, and the people are hungry.
Trump's a thief too, based off of this.
Yeah, but the people aren't starving to death. The people don't have to eat.
Yeah, they are, bro. Yeah, that like I feel a little because I still stand by the fact that I do believe Nick Fuentes believes what he's saying. Like, I know he sees I say this because he does acknowledge when things become so ridiculous. Like, he's making arguments that are like, yeah. But deep down, I truly still believe, like, for instance, to say that the people in the United States are not starving and so forth, it's like, yeah, they are. It's just not on the same level. It's more subjective in nature. It's like, yes, there are plenty of people in the United States that are starving, that are sleeping in horrible circumstances and so forth. But I would imagine it doesn't compare to Venezuela. But it's not like it's so easy to be called a hypocrite when you make arguments like, it's like, yeah, but our people are not starving. I'm like, what? So like,
they don't have to pay to get their relatives freed from gangsters, and I just hate all the moralizing from. It feels like deja vu. You get socialists.
You hate all the moralizing from people. Well, that's because these people are moral people. They understand morality objectively. Like when you actually say it's a right to invade a country, it's a right to rape someone. That's the whole idea of morals. Morals are not your twisted, demented worldview that, you get to do anything you want because of national security. That's the antithesis to morality. Like your worldview, it would be an anathema to Christ. And if Christ could come down to earth and have a look at your Christian values right now, what you're advocating for, he would sit you on his godly lap and spank some sense into you, bro. What left sense or divinity there is in you. That is such a morally decrepit thing to say that it's so annoying to have these people criticizing your morals, right? When you objectively don't have them because your worldview is such that you cannot have a morality. Like a morality is based on an actual principle, not an appeal to a goal. That's like, it's funny because as much as he hates communism, that's the fundamental theme within communism. Karl Marx was someone that did not believe in morals. He believed in strategies to achieve his ends. The most underlying principle of communism is this attitude that there are no morals, there's no objective goal, there's no objective right and wrong. It's all about strategies to achieve goals. So when you say it's all right to invade a country, it's all right to steal, it's all right to rape, all right to violate all of these things because you have a strategy at hand, because you're concerned about what might happen to your resources, that is the very hallmark of this communist worldview that you are so against. And this is the thing that I find, I would imagine someone like Nick Fuentes must realize on some level, but there is some weird psychological cognitive dissonance that is going on here. So when I say that these people are not dishonest, there is a level, this is my psychological take on it, there is a level of awareness that is very much aware, is the Atman, the higher self, that is, presiding in even beings like this guy over here, right? Despite his douchey qualities, right? That is fully aware that they are being dishonest. But at least on a more visceral level, like on a more conscious level, I don't think he actually realizes his dishonesty. Whereas there are some people, like Tate, I think very much does. He's playing this chess game. And I'm not saying Nick Fuentes is not playing that. I think he is more transparent about his intentions, his beliefs, so forth. But it is very complicated because people are not just one being. One, they're verbs. They're constantly changing. But they're a mixture of many aspects of their consciousness that is working with them. There's the ego. There's the subconscious mind. There's the unconscious. There are so many aspects of your psyche that are affecting what you think. And, people say that, you're only like, 1/10. Your consciousness is based off of like you being 1/10, like 1/10 of your consciousness is only your conscious awareness, and the other part of you, like the 9/10 of it, is subconscious. So you consider the real aspect of you as being influenced subconsciously. A lot of people they think they are who they are based on their conscious awareness in themselves, but on a subconscious level, which is more so who they are not who they consciously think they are. And some people just don't have much of a. Whereas many of us are more in touch with our subconscious aspect, and that is a thing like being able to tap into your subconscious. There are some people that are working from this left brain modality that they have lost the ability to actually synthesize their subconscious mind, and they truly have this disconnect where it's like one side of you has cognitively disassociated from your subconscious to the point where you don't realize what's really going on within your psyche, and you think you really think this when in reality you think something completely different. You are this metastasized cancer on the world that really is unleashing the most destructive worldview, and you don't even realize it. And I think this is, as harsh as those words are, I think this is basically what's happening with some of these characters like Nick Fuentes, because what he's actually advocating for is the denial of any kind of right and wrong in the goals to make America great again.
Atheist, left-wing pieces of fucking shit, and they're like, oh, well, you're Christian. How can you support this? It's like, you're not Christian. You're not Christian. You're some socialist. You're some people.
You don't have to be a Christian to adopt certain Christian values. I mean, often figures like this say that you may not be a Christian, but you're living, particularly in the United States, these American values, like this system of deontological ethics, right? And I would say that it's not like a Christian thing. It's just a universal ethic, right? Like this idea of individual ethics, not this communist worldview where you can do things for the greater good, right? Yeah, they're actually demonstrating that more so than you are. Like the whole idea of individual ethics, which is the idea of there being inherent rights, unalienable rights. This is John Lockean property rights. This is Thomas Hobbes. This is the inner theory of justice, right? It speaks about this idea about how the world is split into these two factions. You have the majoritarians. They're people that believe in the greater good and justifies the means, mob rule. And then you have the intuitives. They're the people that believe in individual rights. They use their intuition as their guiding factor in determining justice. But I would say they default to their logos. Because we all deeply know what's right and wrong. It's like the golden rule. You wouldn't want this shit done to you, right? It's like that's inherent within us. We don't need the group in order to map that out. It's kind of like it's wrong to kill people, to steal, take shit that's not yours, right? But they believe in these universal principles of ethics. And I would say that the people that are adopting this Christian worldview, this based off of these deontological, individualist, objective ethics, they're more representative of Christian values, even though they don't call themselves Christian. Whereas someone like you can say you're whatever you want. You could be like Andrew Tate, that is the most un-Islamic person I think ever as a public figure, but calls himself a follower of Islam, right? And you, a Catholic that is openly shows moral turpitude to these fundamental Christian principles. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not rape, kill. These are the common values I think you'd find within Christianity. And then says that, these people are not Christians. I think these people that you despise are more Christian than you are, more Catholic than you are, and that's probably something that's playing on your psyche.
Peoples of the world unite, workers of the world unite. This is a government where the people have to eat fucking rats because everybody is in on the grift. They can't even make their oil because they're stealing all the money. And people are being kidnapped off the streets. Since when do you care about morality? So I say fuck them. We have to have some moral conviction and say...
So it's the classic argument of using the absence of justice to justify actual violence, right? It's like, well, this country, and it's not even like, it's just people, communists tend to do this a lot, like in this worldview. People look at the environmental factors, right? For instance, if no harm is being done directly, right? Now, granted, it's a little more complicated than that in Venezuela, right? But we're seeing people that are starving. Perhaps they don't have the resources through no fault of their own, and the people are starving. Granted, I realize there's kidnapping going on, and you have the worldview that look, all of this stuff is going on. The government's not doing enough to prevent it. That somehow becomes a justification now, based on Nick Fuentes' worldview, in order to actually invade a country and do things that you say within your worldview are wrong, but it's acceptable because look, these people are, well, they're criminals for not doing enough to prevent this stuff from happening, which is something that you yourself are guilty of. So when you have a bit of philosophical consistency, insight into these people's arguments, it's just so transparent that they're shitty arguments, or they're disingenuous, they're Machiavellian, and ultimately there is not even a modicum of legitimacy to anything Nick Fuentes is saying from a perspective of Christian values or natural rights. However, from the worldview from his majoritarian, utilitarian worldview, communist worldview, which he would very much, I'm sure, would take issue with me saying, right? But it really is. Both conservatives and leftists, are communists in a way, in the sense that they're willing to use power to enforce certain virtues, things that they consider to be virtuous, right? It's very commie. It's all for the greater good, right? However, that his worldview is more indicative of that common. It's inherently what he is very much against, which is why figures like him are so very interesting to me.
I'm not going to be told what's right by some left-wing socialist piece of garbage, because that's really what that is. And this idea of
that's an ego thing. I'd let the most morally decrepit people tell me what's right if I think they're right about it. I mean, people have this attitude that no good can come from a bad person. People are verbs. I've heard Trump say things that are good. I've heard, believe me, as few and far between as they may be. I'm sure Hitler, always got to drop the Hitler argument, right? I know, at least I believe, I think no one's disputing this. Hitler loved animals. He had German Shepherds. I think he treated them very well. Now, you're going to tell me that's a bad thing? Should we hate animals now because Hitler loved animals? People always make the vegetarian argument. Hitler was a vegetarian, right? Therefore, you shouldn't be a vegetarian. Well, assuming that he was, and he wasn't, his favorite diet, according to his chef, was squab, which is a type of bird. It's some type of bird, right? So I'm pretty much sure that rules out. In the same way that Andrew Tate calls himself a foe of Islam, I'm sure Hitler was not a vegetarian. It's kind of like a vegetarian that eats meat every Sunday, and I love how people do this shit. A friend of mine recently told me, like, oh yeah, I don't really do the vegan, vegetarian thing anymore. I just eat a little bit of meat though. I'm still mostly. Like, he was making the argument that he still was actually a vegetarian, vegan, right? However, he just ate a little bit of meat. I'm like, well, that's pretty much what most people do. It's like, it doesn't make you. But anyway, I digress. The whole Hitler had some good ideas. Like this idea that, well, I'm not going to listen to someone. I'm not going to listen to you because you're an immoral person. Well, it doesn't mean that you can't do good things. It doesn't mean you can't say good things. I mean, philosophically, do you see any issue with what I'm saying objectively? I mean, be real with me. What? You've never heard someone that you consider bad, or someone that has done bad things in the past. Let's be real about this shit, right? Because I'm not making the subjective view that someone is good or bad. I mean, you just subjectively consider them to be bad. But you saying that bad person has never said a good thing, has never come up with could never say something that's true. When people make these fallacious arguments like, well, this can't be good because he supports it. Oh, Bill Gates, he's advocating for a plant-based diet, so it's got to be bad. That's I got you there. It's like, what level of stupidity do you have to have in order to make arguments like this? Sometimes I honestly feel as if people's ability to think clearly, because look, we're all good at different things, but I see from so many of these heavy players, right, like this level of argumentation that is so retarded that I'm going to myself, like I say dumb things, right? Sure, like everyone does. But when someone corrects me, I see them straight away. I'm like, yeah, that's stupid. It's like some people, I don't know if it's an ego thing or they're just retarded. They stick to their dumb arguments as if they can't see the stupidity of their dumb arguments. And when they say things like that, I'm like, what? Like something can't be good because someone that did bad things is saying it? Like, well, what kind of sense does that make? No sense whatsoever.
Oh, like they got this country together, now they own the trillion barrels of oil. Says who? They can't defend it. And
really? So besides the fact that they can't defend it, right? Like you apply that to the United States. Well, we've done the same. It's like that comment Donald Trump made. It's like just because a bunch of people with boats came into a country, right? And they're now it's now their land, right? We're supposed to respect that. That's exactly what happened in the United States, right? A bunch of people actually invaded. They did it the worst way, right? It wasn't like uninhabited, right? Actually, wait, I think it was the case with Denmark as well. Okay, so same situation. You come in an area, right? You decide to kill off a whole bunch of people and then now claim it as your own. Now, what should classically happen is if you have the highest claim to that area and you haven't committed any violence, there's no one on that land, right? It's a particular area that is, and this is a subjective issue. I acknowledge that, right? But there is no one in that land, and it's. I mean, you have a higher claim to it. It's now under the provision of your people, right? And you are the people that are preserving that. Then you would have a higher claim to, let's say, someone else that has never even touched that land space, right? So depending on who has the highest claim here, you would, from a perspective of property rights here, this is how we would try to mitigate any kind of violence, all right? This is within the realm of property rights, right, that we work under. Otherwise, it's just everyone eye for an eye mentality. It's kind of like, I want this land, it's mine. I want this land, it's mine. But these are the norms that we follow, right? And if you're following this system, right, you've done that with your block of land as the United States. You found a block of land that is actually inhabited, right? So you, bottom line though, is even though you've killed people, you have the claim to this land. I'd make the argument that if Denmark, and I don't know the history of Denmark, has not had to murder a bunch of people in order to claim their land, right? They've done that more fairly than, let's say, we know the United States done. They would have a higher claim to it, right? But let's say the United States, where they've killed millions of people in order to claim this land, right? Now they're claiming, well, we're legitimately able to own our land, right? Because we fought and we died for it, right? We bled for it, and we can defend it too. So but the defense aspect is really immaterial because you can. I mean, if someone wants to drop a nuke on your landmass, right, and threaten you with nukes, you're saying they have a claim to it now. That's just the exact opposite of ownership. It's like, you own something as long as I can't take it from you. As soon as I take it from you, you don't own it anymore. It's just logically retarded. But I just found Trump's argument to be so disingenuous and so logically inconsistent. Makes you a hypocrite, right?
If they had more power, they'd be doing the same thing to us.
Anyway, there we have it. I found that an interesting stream there. But I do like Sneeko. Sneeko is someone that is very base. I actually believe him when he says what he says. And same with Nick Fuentes, for the most part, I'd say. But unlike Nick Fuentes, like Sneeko, like I actually completely resonate with most like his stances on things. Like actually standing, like he sees the logical inconsistency. He actually believes in morals, principles. I know he's someone of Islam for whatever reason. Like he actually believes in standing for things based off of their inherent sense, the inherent reason because they're right and wrong, right? Like he's the kind of person that will say, look, it's wrong for the United States to invade a country, and it's also wrong for Israel to invade a country. Unlike most politicians that will say, well, it's all right for us to do it because we can defend our land, but we should be able to do that to another country because they can't. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Anyway, ladies and gents, freaks and geeks, brothers and sisters around the world, as I always say, there are three things that cannot remain hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the wisdomatic truth bombs of yours truly, Christian the Chocolate Nubian Soul Brother. Be sure to check us out. You can find me on social media. You can find me on Telegram. That's where I drop most of this information. If you are any colleague, this was all jokes. I don't actually feel this way about anything. I'm a full-on leftist, and I'm not critical of Trump. If you're a right-winger, I love everyone. And I'm incredibly base. No, fuck you. If you're someone that doesn't believe in freedom and truth, and you're one of these Orwellian dictators that wants to enforce this kind of tyranny on the world, then honestly, I don't care. I don't care. Most people that have an issue with me because they haven't thought long enough about their views. They've just accepted something blindly, and they don't want to be honest about what they actually think. And when I call them out on a logical inconsistency, they just get mad at me. I don't do that, ladies and gentlemen. I do not take a side in this war, other than the side of truth. I have never claimed. I like people, individuals. I don't like the idea of supporting one person or another because people change. When people always ask me, am I a Trump supporter? We're going to say, I don't say that with anyone. I'll say I like people. I'll say I don't like people. But to fall so blindly into a particular individual or a particular establishment or ideology so much that you cannot criticize that ideology, then you run the risk of losing yourself to nonsense. My religion is the truth. There is no religion higher than the truth. And I think to adopt a philosophy that doesn't allow you to criticize the philosophy is a very dangerous trap. So, as I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, my religion is to do good. I am a denizen of the world, and I believe in love. Ultimately, I don't support this left or right mentality, whereas I acknowledge that they exist, different frameworks. Ultimately, I believe that there is no religion higher than truth, and there is no greater or more beneficent force in the universe than that of pure, unselfish love. I'm going to leave it there. Peace!